this is what we've been waiting for, is to get this opportunity to play for this state championship. And now we're here. But he's had a couple big runs this season for us. But it was a great job at the point of attack of our offensive line.
Franchini, play fake, looking, going deep. Tyson's open, pitch and catch, touchdown.
Right now, it's whatever it takes.
This is the Chuck Smith Show on Cape Atlantic Live, presented by Ulmer's Appliance Service. Now, here's Coach Smith and your host, Nick Kosko.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome into the Chuck Smith Show right here on Cape Atlantic Live, presented by Ulmer's Appliance Service. I'm your host, Nick Kosko. With me every week is Mainland head coach Chuck Smith. Coach, big win for you guys last Thursday, so a bit of a longer weekend for your Mustangs, 5-2 after the 42-0 win over rival EHT. You guys are now number 3 in South Jersey, Group 3, going into the final 2 games of the season. Winslow coming up on Friday at home, but first, we'll talk a little bit about that win on Thursday. So back-to-back rivalry wins for you guys over Ocean City and Egg Harbor Township. This one, it just seemed like everything kind of fell into place.
Yeah, thanks, Nick. Yeah, I must say it was our best game this season. All aspects of it, from special teams to defense, posting another shutout, back-to-back shutouts for them. And offense got rolling a little bit. You know, we had a couple little hiccups early on with a couple turnovers in the first and second quarter. But then once that got settled, we kind of got rolling there. And it felt good to get the wheels unwound a little bit.
When you talk about this game against the HT, again, there were some moments. You mentioned the turnovers that you got. I believe both teams turned over at least twice, and then there was an opportunity for EHT to get back into the ball game in that first half. You guys are up 14-0. They're driving. They had the ball at the 6-yard line, fumbled it into the end zone. Khalib Foster falls on it. Then you guys drive the length of the field, and of course, you go on to win the game 42-0 and kind of cruise in the second half as well. Was that one of the big turning points of the football game where the Eagles could have gotten back into it, would have made it a one-score game, maybe things got a little bit tighter, but that turnover seemed to change everything there? Yeah,
if you really look at it, it's like a 21-point swing in a way, because like you're saying, it was 14-0. They hit a nice run to start the drive. Then they hit a big pass down the sidelines, took it all the way down to the red zone. 2 plays later, one of our linebackers, Chase Hogue, made a great play on the quarterback to force a fumble, which Khalib fell on in the end zone. We got the ball back. You know, it could have been 14-7 right there. Mm-hmm. You know, and momentum going their way in a big, big way. And then we took the ball 80 yards, scored. We were able to hold them again, score again, all right before half. I think this all happened with a matter of like 2 minutes and something to go in the half. You know, and had a chance to try to put a field goal on the board too. And we just went for it, but, you know, fell a little wide of the goalpost, but that was a big shifter in the game, because going from 14-7 possibly to all of a sudden 28-0 going into halftime, when we got the ball back to start the second half also, you know, where we scored again, that was kind of like, that was it.
When you talk about the physicality of this football game, I know when we talked about it last week, you mentioned how big EHC was up front in the trenches, and obviously their front 7 on defense, and the way they've been kind of attacking the football. And and again, their offense pretty big as well. Their quarterback and running back, the Kochi brothers, they're obviously very big as well. When you saw that physicality on film, that you brought it to the field, and again, you had your moments where they almost got back in the game, but you had timely turnovers. What was it like dealing with a team that size that obviously is improved from last year, but again, able to run away with it? What was that like, especially in the first half?
Yeah, you know, EHC's having a tremendous season, you know, one of their best seasons in recent history. And, you know, they have some very good, talented football players over there, especially the quarterback. I mean, he can really wing the ball around. Mm-hmm. He's a big boy, you know, and we talked about his running ability and so forth last week. But, you know, I think it's kind of a testament of the schedule we're playing this year also. You know, every week we're playing somebody that's just big and physical, it seems like, with this schedule. And I think, you know, as much as it's a pounding on us and wearing us out a little bit here and there, mm-hmm. not much time to recover, it also is preparing us for these other games too. And I think we were well prepared for this type of game coming into it, because it's been that way for 7 straight weeks, you know. You know, the boys responded well. You know, I think that showed also the maturity of this team, you know, the experience that some of these kids have of playing in some very big games over the past several seasons, that, you know, even though that could have been a part of the game that really would have shifted the momentum in their favor, you know, they didn't get down on themselves. They didn't do anything. They rose to the occasion to really swoon in and try and flip the script, which they were fortunate enough to do, and I think that shows the maturity of this year's team, the experience of the kids overall of being in the program and a lot of big games over the years, and also a testament to this year's schedule, as brutal as it is, it has prepared us for this point.
No easy games in the American division for you guys in the Worcester Football League, and obviously Winslow coming to town on Friday. We'll get into that in a second. So one more on this win over Egg Harbor Township. Lucas DiBiaso, one of his breakout games, 156 yards on the ground, 3 touchdowns. Everyone knows how good Rocco's been for your program, his older brother, for so long, but now his younger brother Lucas, who was only a sophomore. It seemed like the first week of the year against Atlantic City, it wasn't quite the coming out party yet, but he had made some big plays against Atlantic City. And then just recent weeks are starting to get better and better. And this was, I would imagine, a true testament to all of the work he's put into this point, had his best performance of the season.
Yeah, Lucas had a really good offseason in the weight room. He's a great athlete. He's 100% all the time in practice, just gives it his all. Even if he makes a mistake, it's full throttle. I can't say enough about him. And I'm fortunate that I get to coach him at the wingback position, so I'm with him every single day. And he asks a ton of questions all the time. He's a fun kid to coach. And I just can't, I can't believe, how good he is already as a sophomore. And we still have 2 more years of him, thank God. But it was a great game for him, a breakout performance, as you're saying, 150 some yards rushing, 3 touchdowns. EHT pinned us deep in our own end with our very first possession on our own 5-yard line. We went 95 yards, and that was all because Lucas broke a 74-yard touchdown run on that. He's a good receiver out of the backfield. He's still a little light in the rear end, but he throws everything he has into his blocking assignments and everything. I can't wait to see what he actually becomes by the time he's a senior. But he's having a great year, and it's fun when you have a sophomore that gets that, because those become confidence games. You're waiting for that moment where they realize, you see it as a coach, what their potential can be. And you hope that they realize that at some point in time. And sometimes it takes a confidence, a breakout performance like Lucas had the other night to realize, hey man, I can really do that. And then all of a sudden it changes. I've seen several players over the years be that way. Jamie Tyson was one.
Yeah.
We all saw in him, like, wow, this kid could be this stud, And then next thing you know, he had one of those games against EHT 2 years ago, his junior season, on both sides of the ball. Next thing you know, he was lights out from that point on, but it's just waiting for that moment to happen, and it's a tribute to Lucas and his work ethic.
Yeah, can't imagine what he's going to be like, as you just mentioned, when he is a senior. We are obviously know how good his brother Rocco is on both sides of the football, how physical he is. I'm sure Lucas will do the same thing. If not, who knows, may even be even better in a couple of years. So let's shift gears now to Winslow this Friday. They're coming in flying high. They're 7-0 on the season. They're currently ranked number 2 in South Jersey Group 4, although I believe if the playoffs did start today, they would actually jump Millville because they have the head-to-head win in Group 4. So, again, they're playing lights out. They're a new challenge here. Again, a division opponent in this loaded America division that you guys have been playing in this year. Now, again, this is a state semifinal rematch from last year's Group 4 bracket. You guys handled them at their place, but it seems like this is a more developed Winslow Township Eagles team coming into the 2024 campaign.
Yeah, they are a talented football team, to say the least, across the board. You look at them, and yeah, a lot of familiar faces from last year when we prepared for them in the semifinals, but they are different. You can see they have a lot of experience on the team. The confidence level is there, obviously, when they had that big win over Millville, which was a very anticipated game earlier in the season of 2 of the best teams in Group 4, and they kind of handled them. But they really are a good football team. The quarterback is phenomenal. He's a very accurate passer. He loves to stay in the pocket and throw the ball around. They have talented receivers, including Cam Miller, who we had to deal with last year. A big headache he was on both sides of the ball. They're very fast on defense. They have a nice little running game to complement the passing game, and a good kicking game. They are the complete package. I think they're probably the number 1 team in South Jersey overall. I think they're one of the top-ranked public school, if not the second-ranked public school in the state of New Jersey. But they bring a lot to the table. But you know what? This is what you play for. Play for these matchups. This is the schedule we have. When you get to this point in the season, you got these are all big games. Big game for them also. It's a big PowerPoint game. Big, huge game for us with PowerPoints and division game, but at the same time, it's preparing you for the bigger ones that are down, a couple weeks away now. I think that's one thing, even though as brutal as we talk about this schedule being and the physicality of it and, overcoming injuries and adversity and so forth, these are the games to get you ready for. You just hope you can survive through it. But we're really looking forward to the matchup on Friday night.
2 games left, Winslow at home this week, and then Delsea on the road to conclude the regular season. And then you guys will begin the journey at this point in the South Jersey Group 3 playoff bracket, wherever you guys fall at this point. So this game is very interesting to me because everyone was was anticipating that Winslow-Millville game a few weeks ago. Again, at the end of September, they end up beating them 35-7 at Millville, and they have just been scoring and scoring and scoring. And I think I'm looking at it right now, the most points that they've given up all year, just 14. So their defense is high flying, can pitch the shutout like your defense as well. Because you've seen this team before, and there are a lot of familiar faces, are there similarities to how they operated last year to winning a sectional title? Of course, getting to that state semifinal and hosting you guys last year. Is it going to be a similar, maybe not a similar type of game in terms of the final score, but is it a similar game in the sense of what the game plan for? It's just the fact that maybe these kids are more developed and are better a year later?
Well, the scary part about Winslow is they have a lot of sophomores playing this year.
Yeah.
And they're good, like really good. So not only do they bring back the guys from last year, but they also augment that with these other players that are just into their program. When you're going through their roster, and you're like, oh my gosh, he's a sophomore. He's a sophomore. Like, wow. They're different. I think every team evolves year to year. Yeah, there are obviously some similarities because you run the same systems and stuff like that. But like last year, their quarterback was more of a runner when we faced him in the semifinals. This young man doesn't seem to be as much of a runner, but he's a heck of a passer. And I remember watching him on tape last year. He was injured for our game.
Yeah.
And the other kid played. But I remember watching him last year. He was a freshman, and I was just amazed at his poise in the pocket, just staying in there and taking a hit to get the pass off, something you see at the next level type, and he's just so accurate. I mean, it's great when you have a high school quarterback that can throw the ball. Mm-hmm. It's kind of a little more of a rarity when you find a quarterback who is very accurate at throwing the football. And he's like at the top of that list. He really is. So there are some similarities from last year, but a little bit differences. I mean, their defense was tough last year. They were fast, very aggressive to the football. As you can tell by their schedule and the points they've given up this year, hardly any points. They just fly around. I watched a lot of tape on them this past weekend, and they play fast. So even when they make a mistake, there's no let up on them. They're recovering from it. A hard team to drive the football on. I watched the game against the Prep. They won 21-7 against the Prep, and that's a big physical football team. That they were able to beat. And pretty decisively when you watch the tape of it. But it'll be a battle. It'll be a battle, and I think this game has the potential to go well into the second half of being very tight.
Jalen Parker is the quarterback you're referring to, just a sophomore, has nearly 1,400 yards passing, 21 touchdowns, and only 6 picks this year. So you mentioned, he's very accurate. He can really sling the football, and who knows how that game would have turned out or what you would have, different things you would have faced last year when he was in his freshman year if he had not been hurt. So he'll be there on Friday night, of course, one of the better quarterbacks in South Jersey. And it's interesting you mentioned the tape against the Prep, and that was the lowest output in terms of points for Winslow this year. 21, which also that was their first game against Montclair as well. They had a 21-0 shutout. But that game against the Prep, where the Prep went to their building, was 21-7. I believe the Prep scored on a bit of a fluky play, or maybe it was a block punt or something along those lines. But Winslow controlled that game. But it's interesting that you look at that tape, considering that is also a team that you played earlier this year. Another hard-fought game where they were just a little bit better defensively that day. Do you take tidbits from that Prep film and say, well, here's what the Hermits did well to limit this very fast and physical Winslow team, and apply it to your own tendencies and schemes?
Oh, yeah. Sometimes you look at what teams did, what was successful, but then you have to worry about, does it fit into what you do? It's hard to be one of those schools where you look at a player or something like that and say, oh, we could put that in, but what else does it go with that you run? I see a lot of that, especially at the junior levels where people watch college football and they see these really cool plays, and then they put it in just to run one time, but you practice all week for it, and you're only going to use it once. But you do look at certain aspects of the game plan, the scheme, and see what they did or what they were trying to do, what was successful, what wasn't successful, Does it marry to some similarities that you might have on offense and defense, and see how it works out? I mean, that's why we watch tape. You don't only watch it for looking at personnel and key positions and things like that, but you're looking at the schemes and what teams are doing just to see if you can benefit from it.
What do you make of Bill Belton and the job he's done? I mean, he's been the coach there just for a couple of years, but again, he has the Penn. He went to Penn State. I know Mainland is a big Penn State connection throughout your school's history. What can you say about the job that he's done with Winslow, considering they were a sectional champ last year? They ran into the buzzsaw that were you guys last year en route to a state title, but now they're looking like a state title favorite in Group 4 this year.
Yeah, I mean, you look at their game away from being state title last year. No doubt in my mind, whoever won that game was going to win the state title. So they could have been in our seat. But he's done a great job. I followed him since he was in high school there at Winslow, and I remember going up to a game when I was head coach at Oakcrest to scout Williamstown, and they were losing 28-0 at halftime, and then it became the Bill Belton show in the second half, and they won 35-28. Came back from that and won. And he was playing quarterback, and it was scrambling around, throwing dimes, or taking off and running. And then when he went to Penn State, I'm a big Penn State fan, football fan, and I watched him. He played with one of my former players, Brandon Bell. Mm-hmm. They're both on the team together up there at Penn State. And so I watched him in college also, and then he comes back home. He's doing a great job. He's in his backyard, and he's doing a great job of getting kids out for the football program, because Winslow has had their ups and downs over the years. They've had some great football players come out of that school. Sean Green was one of them, way back when. They've had a few players go big-time college football. And they always have athletes. They're known as a track school. Yeah. But, the last few years, he's brought some continuity to it and has kept kids there, has had kids coming in there. And to be competitive and to stay at this level that he's at now, it's hard. It's hard to do it for 1 year, let alone to keep doing it year in and year out. And he's done a good job of building that football program.
We know styles make fights. When you look at Winslow as a complete team, based on what you guys have seen already on your schedule through 7 games, again, 2 left to make one final impression and make one last jump for the playoffs, is Winslow, do you believe, the most complete team that you're going to face at least to this point in the season?
Oh, it'd be great if we don't see another team as good as these guys, But yeah, they do. They check the boxes. They really do. They're not the biggest team we've seen this year,
right?
But they're so fast. They're the fastest team we've seen by far. A lot of talent across the board. We've seen some very good football teams this year. We've seen some very big physical football teams this year. They're kind of like in the middle of that, but they augment it by the amount of talent that they have across the board. There really isn't a weak spot in their roster. Even you get to the special teams, and you're like, oh, maybe they don't have a good punter, or maybe they don't have a good kicker. Bang, kids kicking it down to the 10-yard line, nonstop. So I would say they're right there. They're right up there. So far of what we've seen this year, they are the most complete football team that we've seen. I just hope that they're the best this end of the line for us seeing teams like this.
Hey, we talk about it every single week. The gauntlet of the schedule that you guys have had all year. Don't worry, the regular season does come to an end after next week when you guys.
It never gets easier though.
yeah, it never gets easier. But then the playoffs come around. You can see a local, an upstart local team in the first round. So we'll see how that goes. So Winslow on Friday, coming to the Corral in Linwood, 6 p.m. You can catch that game on Cape Atlantic Live on YouTube. Coach, anything going on in terms of, I know we had homecoming, we had an alumni event as well for the Hall of Fame for Mainland. What else is going on for this home game coming up on Friday?
Most of our home games, we always something going on. We have senior night on Friday night. So we'll be celebrating the seniors from our cheerleaders, our band, and the football program before the game, being honored, having their name called out. They'll be coming out with their family and a teacher that they've selected. They'll have their picture up on the big video board while they walk out on the field and have photos taken with their family and all. Just a nice gesture of thanks to all the kids have done, dedicating themselves over the years to the football program. I always say, not that football's this much over any other sport in the school, but to me, and anybody that's played football knows the amount of time and dedication it takes to be devoted to a good football program, because our preseason is the longest preseason of any sport. It's just a thank you to those kids for their time and dedication. and hopefully they enjoyed their time at Mainland playing football for us. And we actually kick it off tomorrow night. We have a senior dinner at the Doc's Place restaurant in Summers Point, and it's just the seniors with a couple guests and the coaching staff, and we have a very nice dinner down there. And we kind of, it's more of like, I don't want to say it's a banquet.
Yeah.
More a casual banquet in a way that each coach will talk about a couple of the seniors themselves, what they've meant to us. And it's just a real more of a close-knit family type atmosphere, just to have that moment by themselves to kick off this week in celebration of their careers at Mainland.
Can't wait to see that. And before I let you go, and you don't have to give your entire spiel right now. You can save for tomorrow when you guys head to the Doc's Place. And obviously, this is not the end of the season right here, but just a little bit, maybe a bit of a teaser as to what this senior class in particular has meant to you and your time at Mainland. Obviously, what they've done over the last 4 years.
Yeah, what? I was thinking about that earlier, actually. Looking at some of the kids when I was out practice today. And, these kids came in when we were coming off a couple of like down years after the COVID and so forth. And to keep them engaged and have them there and to let them buy into our culture. And they did. They bought into what we were trying to do. And, I look around the room and I see these kids that have been in the weight room nonstop, in the off season from December all the way through the season. They get like 2 weeks off and they're back in. These guys dedicated. And the proof is in the pudding, we're not the biggest team. We're not the fastest team, but we're a team. And I truly believe in what we do, obviously. And it shows on the field, that you can compete at a high level and you might not have the most talented team out there, but you have a team. And I think that's what these kids have brought to us and have helped us really take a football program that was a solid football program and made it go up a couple notches to where we're always trying to compete at an elite level. And who knows if that will happen year in, year out, but that's our goal. And that's the mindset our football team, our football program has. And that's not just the coaches. That goes right to the players, to the managers, anybody that touches any aspect of our football program. That's the level that we expect from everybody. And they know that now, but these kids were the ones who helped build the foundation of it. We were good and we were there, but we needed to do something to take us to the next level. And those kids were the ones who helped put that in place. Now they're the kids who next year, there's other kids that need to take the ball and run with it now. Now it's going to be their turn, and that's where your hope is that each group that comes through your senior class, learns from the group before that, takes a lot of pride in what it was to build that and be part of it and do their best to uphold the standards of the football program. Hey, it's all about talent on the field, but I truly believe that if you have a great football program, you can compete with anybody. And that's what you want to do. Give yourself a chance to win.
Without a doubt, I'm really to see how they leave their lasting impact once the season eventually does conclude for you guys, wherever that may be down the line later in the late fall as we approach the winter. And of course, this class and last year's class integral to that rebuild after the couple down years, the state championship last year, and then the seniors this year who were juniors just last year, maybe have a chance to leave one more last, big moment for the Mainland football program. So we'll see it all on Friday. Okay. It'll be great to see all those kids honored and all the work they've put in over the last 4 years. 6 p.m. on Friday, Winslow coming to town. We'll take on the Mainland Mustangs. 6 o'clock on Cable Atlantic Live on YouTube. And of course, that game will be presented by Ulmer's Appliance Service. Coach, thanks for your time as we do this every single week. Regular season's almost over, but we will see you on Friday for Winslow, which should be a much anticipated game in the American Division.
Yeah, thanks, Nick. We're looking forward to Friday night. It's going to be a big one.
Be sure to check out the game on Friday night. Of course, future editions of the Chuck Smith Show next week and beyond right here on Cable Atlantic Live.